So I wanted to get together to kind of go over some of the different legislative efforts that we have in the fire, as well as to talk a little bit about some of the networking and coalition building that we've been doing, as well as to introduce one of our candidates and to kind of give her a chance to ask any questions. That's Dr. Stephanie Burns that we have here.
Good morning, Dr. Burns.
Good
And
morning.
you're pretty familiar with the rest of us. So yeah, I guess one place that we could start is that LLPC bill, and kind of where we're at with that.
Yeah. So that was on our radar screen, and I'll just preface Jane Deagle from the Acuitas team. She's a great partner in working with your organization. She's out today, so I'm flying solo, and I'm going to do my best. Jane has a lot of pieces as well, but yeah. So the legislation you're specifically referring to, the old, not old, the previous version, Rep. McFall and McKinney had last session. I believe it was 4467, and I believe you guys are aware that we've had some ongoing conversations with, both in the House is identifying potential co-sponsors. We had Representative Fairbairn, who, if I'm not mistaken, he's interested in helping us out to move that in the House. And then on the Senate side, we had been meeting with the policy folks. And so those are important pieces because they're assigned certain committees they would be working on, depending on what committee it would get referred to, they'd be working on that. And so I know that we've had the conversations of getting the language, splitting the bills, looking at exactly what we wanted to do strategically from a standpoint of wanting to see this move efficiently, introducing on this side and this side. We've been advised to kind of try and do it one cohesive piece in terms of effectiveness for moving through the chambers. So this week I talked to actually both policy advisors from the Republican and Democratic side. They work hand in hand as colleagues do. And so I had a good update. I believe that there is language on the Senate side. Part of the nuances with that is, especially when putting, the legislature is able to kind of break up bills, we could say. So say that it's one long bill. There's break points where we can split bills. The opportunity that gives us is we're able to give Senator X a bill and then Senator Y a bill, so that we have two bills. We have two different people that are championing it. A lot of times my perspective is that that's another voice that can help push that along. And so where we're at right now, I'm waiting to get the language from the policy advisors there, just so that we can put eyes on. I think that's an important step to this. I was notified that the Legislative Research Bureau, LSB, or Legislative Services Bureau, who does the drafting and all that stuff, I don't know if there's turnaround or something, but it's not a secret in Lansing that the budget is happening right now. I know the Senate moved out their budgets last week, and that was, quite frankly, priority. And so now that that has moved, to make a long story short, the House will be doing their stuff. They'll come together for conferences, but that gives us some room to begin working the policy stuff. A lot of these policy advisors are also doing the fiscal side as well as the policy side. So it gives us a little bit more bandwidth. So I think we're in a good spot to take eyes on the language, where it was split, how we want to do it. They have some suggestions for legislative sponsors. The legislation itself is, quite frankly, not complex or something that we deem to be a politically charged issue that's going to run into roadblocks in that sense. So it's really just coalescing the stakeholders and the legislators to get this introduced and to get it moved. And I think we're on the path to be able to do that very shortly here.
Great.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like we're moving forward with that. And is there any concerns about the budget taking up too much oxygen and somehow this not getting passed this session?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be a realist, and to be frank, the budget process this year, this current new session, is already looking a little different, and it's going to look a little different. Um, the history, as history shows, the budget would be wrapped up by the end of June. You've got the education folks, well, the K-12 space that their fiscal year is July 1. And so no, in years past, everything's done that last week in June. It's kind of a marathon session week where the budgets are voted on and they go all night and there's negotiations, but it's done and folks walk out of there before the 4th of July holiday and the summer recess sort of begins. This year, everything that we're hearing and seeing and reading is pointing to the fact that the budget may not specifically the budgets outside of the education space, the rest of the budgets may not get done until early fall. So, that's a valid point. The budget is going to be taking up a lot of oxygen, but I don't see it where it chokes out everything. I think that specifically non hot button or some of those big issues that each caucus or chamber is trying to roll through. You've seen a lot of that stuff come through already. And so I do think it's going to be fair to say that the budget is going to be a big part of the summer, but it's going to be new to have the legislature in as much as I believe that they're going to be in throughout the summer. And so that gives us, quite frankly, more face time with legislators in Lansing. Generally speaking, when the budget's done in June, folks aren't in town nearly as much. And so that gives us more opportunity to be able to do the face-to-face meetings and have the conversations and gives us more session days to introduce legislation and to get bills read in. So although I do think it's going to be a piece of the puzzle, I don't think it's necessarily a roadblock.
So the next thing would be kind of our starting conversations about insurance clawbacks with several legislators. Can we go over that?
Yeah. So we've had a lot of great conversations. I know a few of us have met specifically with Chair Vanderwall of the Health Policy Committee. That was a really good meeting. That was a great start to kind of just begin gauging temperature. What might legislators be thinking about this? What opinions might they have? How familiar with the topic might they be? But it really gave us kind of a sense that we could begin looking at what other states are doing. There's a number of other states. I know we've shared some documents about what, ranging from some short time frames to a little bit longer to some compromised time frames, whether it's Texas, Ohio, a few states out east. And so I think that we've gotten a good sense that it's time for us as a stakeholder group to I don't want to say get organized or get our ducks in a row, but start to figure out what it is that will work here in Michigan for the stakeholders and for the interested groups, and more importantly, what is going to be politically viable? How can we engage this so that this isn't just a PR campaign waving the flag that this issue is out there and it's affecting a number of people across the state and from various different backgrounds and providers and stuff. And so I think that as the stakeholder group begins and has continued to take a look at what we want to do, I think the steps are there in terms of coming up with a game plan. Where do we want to begin? How do we want to start the race? Where do we want to start it at? And then once we have the starting point, moving forward into that legislative process of beginning to get some language drafted and then getting that in front of our group's eyes as well as legislator eyes, and then having those conversations with legislators and stakeholders from across spectrums, industry-wide, and seeing, okay, what do we need to do to take this from a PR campaign to policy? We want to get policy done. We don't just want to go out and raise the flag and talk about it. We want to see it move. So I think we're in a great spot. We've had great conversations. I think it's time to start looking at some language to start the race with and begin moving forward.
Right. And I know that, one thing I was surprised when we met with Chair Vanderwalt was and it's something that we deal with all the time, and is helpful for me to understand is that they're not even aware that this is a thing, a
Hmm.
practice, right? And
Yeah.
so, if he's not aware, it's
Hmm.
all the more likely that other legislators aren't aware, and that by I remember he was pretty amazed
Hmm.
at kind of what we have to deal with in terms of reimbursement policies, um,
Absolutely.
and he seemed very interested in it.
Yeah, he did, and I think part of what was really helpful for that meeting was I believe it was some sort of survey that you guys helped shepherd and to get the stories of the people that are facing these clawbacks and the time frame, the issue, the reason given, the amount. I mean, it ranges, and to be able to go to the chair with the information like that is very compelling, and I think it was pretty clear that. He is interested in it and wants us to you know guide this along and whether he's a sponsor or not, we didn't get that far, but there's certainly an avenue to begin these conversations, like you said, educating some of these legislators on, hey, this is happening. It's happening more times than not, and it's affecting having a huge effect on the industry as a whole, and other states are addressing it. So, you know, that gets you in the door, and then it's up to us to do the homework to get our ducks in a row and get the policy lined up so that we can begin moving forward.
Did anybody else have any commentary or questions on that for Martin?
I just really appreciate those of you that went to that meeting, and it's
Hmm.
just so heartening to hear that it went so well. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was extremely helpful. And it's a new topic for me, not totally new, but it was great to have a lot of that support that the industry experts.
So great. All right. And then the other thing that we've been, well, one of the other things that we've been kind of checking into as well has been the impact of like AI and such on mental health practice and all licensed work in Michigan. Um, and I know that's something that we've been kind of just starting to develop an idea of all the different stakeholders and all the different ways that that impacts things, so that we can identify people who would be interested, or perhaps, incentivized to help us look into that and kind of shape any sort of policy that goes forward on that in Michigan. Um, that's still at a very early stage, so I'm assuming there's not too much of an update, but I don't know if there's anything that you've noticed kind of in that process or as we've begun doing that research.
Yeah, so and that was a good flag by you guys on stuff happening in other states, which is important. And in our background, there's a lot of keeping an eye on what's happening in our neighboring states and other states. And so the tracking of that, and I don't remember who brought that up, but I believe the bill that we were specifically looking at was Illinois House Bill. I think it was 1806, and that was flagged for us a couple weeks back, and it was something that we began looking into specifically in terms of the AI space and chatbots and what other states are doing with that, and obviously how technology, specifically AI and the chatbots, how that affects your industry, what that would look like. And so, yeah, Illinois has seemingly fast-tracked that legislation through their legislature. I believe it's not fully passed yet, but it's a second chamber bill on probably third reading in Illinois. And so in terms of Michigan and where we're going in that direction, I think what we've shared is that there seems to be some interest. I mean, there's certainly interest in that space. I want to clarify that. There is certainly interest in that space. But I think you're seeing in Michigan, we haven't necessarily broken through that mold of wanting to just go full speed at it. I think what we're finding is that our legislative body is doing a kind of binocular monitor check on other states, seeing kind of what what other states are doing in terms of regulatory side in AI. I know the Michigan House has recently passed some AI legislation related to doctoring images of some sorts, I believe. And that I think was it is a bipartisan package with Representative Matt Beerline, who is one of the sponsors on that, and the other sponsor is slipping my mind right now. But yeah, I think we're seeing that as other states are beginning to move, and the legislature in Michigan is beginning to move. There's a keen awareness that this is something that we are going to certainly have to pay attention to and begin having some serious conversations. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's something like this already happening. I just don't know about it yet, but some sort of maybe caucus, but open caucus to AI or changing technology in Michigan. I don't know that there's something formal like that yet, but I imagine that there's going to be legislators that want to start taking a deep look at this and comparing what some of the other states are doing and how Michigan we can begin tackling that for better or worse.
Great.
Do you mind if I hop in here?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For a second? I've done extensive, at least in terms of what it means, especially for counselors, but also really for any kind of health professional, various federal guidance. I have a lot of different things that I could share with you. I've presented extensively on this topic because I know everybody wants to jump on board because they think this is so handy and it's so convenient, but the problem is that there's just a litany of problems. And so I think I'll gather those together. I'll share those with you. I would, I did a presentation on this, which Carol gratefully attended, and I would love to kind of repackage that with what we know now today and do that as a training through MMHCA, certainly. But I do have some resources that I think would be really helpful as those discussions are starting as a platform. And there are other states in terms of counseling boards that are specifically giving guidance about this and the responsibilities that a mental health practitioner and specifically a counselor would need to take into account. And I'd be happy to be a part of helping with various meetings if appropriate, and helping especially our legislators as well as our counselors in the state kind of what really hangs in the balance. And there's a lot of problems with what's going on right now, quite frankly.
Well, that would be extremely helpful. I appreciate that information because, all the resources, the better, and especially coming from the industry too. It's one thing for, some of these regulatory things to be happening, but, I don't think it's a secret that it's always interesting when, regulations are coming down on industry specifics from non-industry folks, right? So obviously, the legislature aren't the experts in the world of MMHCA, but, the legislative body, that's what we do. But to have the input from the industry is what's incredibly important. And I would have to imagine in Illinois that the wellness and oversight for the 1806 that they're doing had some of that industry impact. And, it was the AI-specific systems and independent therapeutic decisions and interacting with clients and generating treatment plans and all that stuff among AI. And so I'm sure that, the industry was involved there. But I think your research would be very helpful and your insights when we begin those meetings.
And Stephanie, that's something definitely we can talk about. I've been the person that's kind of been ringing the bell a lot here, so I'm happy to talk about that anytime. is there anything that you can kind of foresee coming up in the future, or any trends that you notice, Martin, that might be relevant for us or for counselors in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's been a few things that or conversations things in terms of what's happening. I think something that was just done in the House. I believe it was a House resolution. The number escapes me. It's somewhere in the 90s, but it was Mental Health Awareness Month for May. I believe that was early May when the House adopted that. Emphasizing the importance of mental health and encouraging the public awareness and education for the month of May. So I just wanted to flag that for you. But in terms of other items that we're monitoring, specifically in that health committee. Yeah, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on health policy, specifically in health policy. We've been tracking a lot of the committee meetings that both the Senate and the House are having. And right now, what we've been seeing is a lot of compact stuff. And so we're monitoring what that looks like. That's more on the clinical side in terms of like the nursing and NP stuff. There's some big conversations around 340B and some other things in the state of Michigan, some PBM talk. But in terms of MHCA and what we're tracking, we're not seeing anything at this point that is something we need to engage with or engage in yet. But we're constantly monitoring that as committees are meeting, as policies being introduced. I think in terms of foreseeable future, I don't have anything outside of some of the stuff that we've been working and having conversations about. But, that's not to say that a bill doesn't get introduced or some sort of committee doesn't get held. We've seen a lot of oversight type committees being held in the House. And so we're always tracking some of that on the different industries that they're bringing in to kind of take a look at and just see what's working, what's not working. So I don't think that there's anything on my radar. Jane was here. I'm sure she could give you a input on that as well, but nothing that I can foresee at this moment.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was, Acuitas has been helpful and kind of active with us interfacing with different professional groups. Like we've been building this partnership with NASW in terms of like banding together for legislative advocacy, which I found to be really, really wonderful. And I was wondering I know you haven't been involved too much in that because that's more of Jane's area. But is there anything that you've noticed from that or from that partnership that you can speak to?
Yeah, I think my initial take is I think it's a great partnership. I think working in the legislative process and working in the legislative space, specifically on policy, it's really great to be able to form these coalition groups. I think I would say, and part of that is, there's everybody kind of plays in the same world, but everybody might have a different perspective. And so bringing in, like the NASW stuff, like bringing other groups in and bringing their lobbyists and their help and their eyes and ears. I think for me, it's been refreshing to see the perspective, and a lot of times it's just another perspective, but another idea or another path or something that we might not have necessarily thought about. And so I think it's been great that we've been able to organize and get some of those meetings scheduled and start to have the conversations on how we can move forward. Because also in this world, moving policy, I say the 3 Ps: policy, people, and politics. And the more people we bring into a coalition group means the more context that they might have, or the political insight on how we might be able to move this or move that. And then in terms of the policy, more eyes on the policy, more input. It makes for it doesn't make for necessarily always a fast track process or, something like that. But that helps make policy cleaner because you have more eyes on it, you have more input. And at the end of the day, the final product is filtered and worked through pretty well.
And I imagine that also leads to less issues, say, during, like, say, committee processes or when other stakeholders are asked to come in and comment because we've already brought those stakeholders in and they've had that input. And so there can be less snags in that respect, too.
Absolutely. You've already had those conversations. And so, it's not a secret that folks tend to come out of the what I would call the woodwork when stuff is moving or when stuff is getting introduced, and being proactive in terms of that, bringing people in. You might not always get somebody to come in and be a part of the organization or the group, but what you might be able to do is have the conversations with a stakeholder group that might have opposed, might have been of loud opposition, and having those conversations, they might stay out of it altogether and just take a monitoring perspective, or they might go in neutral and say, hey, this isn't our lane, but it might have something to do with us or some way intertwined, something like that, but we're going to go neutral. We're going to be neutral on it. We've had the conversations. We've been contacted. And it also shows a good faith effort in wanting to work with the various stakeholders to make clean policy.
And then that kind of leads into, kind of burgeoning efforts to create a larger coalition among various different mental health stakeholders here in the state of Michigan that's kind of still in its infancy, and so I don't want to talk too much about it. But just that it's been exciting to see so many groups from so many different disciplines come together for the purpose of advocating for our clients and Michiganders.
I just want to say thank you to Martin and Jane and to Kevin Corpy and just Acuitas in general. You've been our lobbying firm for many, many years, and I just feel like we're in really good hands and appreciate all your efforts and all your emails and communications. Thank you very much.
We really appreciate that, and I am excited to share that with Kevin and Jane and the rest of the team. It's a great group that we have, and our leaders, Kevin and Corby and Sarah, are just set what I would call the bar for how we want to operate and how we want to engage with clients and advocate for our clients. And so we work with a great team, and we have really enjoyed and will continue to enjoy working with your organization.